Hey guys, Kevin here, and yeah, I was doing the other Facebook Live, and we ran into some technical difficulties. We lost power, and we lost our internet connection, but now we're back. So, yeah, I'm just here waiting for people to pop in, and we will be continuing shortly. Yeah. So yeah, if just just hop on in, and I look forward to chatting with you guys. So yeah, just a background. So there's no dead air. Yeah, word of the day, dead air. So what does dead air means? Dead air is when it's like you're on a call or you're just talking to someone and it just goes quiet. And yeah, that's what you call dead air. And if you're working in a call center, supervisors, your bosses don't like dead air. So if you're talking to a customer, you're waiting for something to load, you're not supposed to just like shut up, leave. Like you're not supposed to just keep quiet. You're supposed to use the time and give them something valuable. So you can ask them about their day. You can ask them to um, more information. You can tell them more information about your company, your service, about how you're gonna try and help them. So yeah, um, that's yeah. You need to be familiar with that term, dead air. You're not supposed to have that. So that also applies during your interviews. You're supposed to say something, even if you don't have an answer. So if you're not sure about the question, just tell them like, oh, okay, so I understand that your question is like this. So you rephrase the question. You can ask more questions about what they mean about their question. So I don't really have any question in mind, but if you could give me more details, I'll be able to figure that out for you or something like that. Um, yeah, so anyway, um, I've prepared this small program, a list of really important details that you could use so you'll be confident in. Let me just write something down. So basically, the topic is how to prepare and be confident for any interview. So these are the things that you need to know about yourself. The first example, or the first detail that I wrote down would be the typing speed. And the typing speed is really important because if you're able to answer that, you'll come across to the interviewer as someone who knows himself or herself. So um, in the call center, usually typing speed, um, the lowest acceptable is around 20-25, but if you can go to 30 or 40, you you have a higher chance of getting hired, especially if later on you become interested in chat support or email support or something like that. You can try that, and you can get more success with a higher typing speed. The way that you can increase your typing speed is by practicing on typing games, or you can just write. So if you go to the website callcentertrainingtips.com, that's where I have all of my lessons published for free. You can read that, and there are a lot of activities. There are questions that you can write your answer to, because answering these questions will help you prepare for your interviews, and it helps you prepare for whatever problems you're going to face later on. So I highly recommend you go to the site, you read all of the lessons for free, and yeah, if you like it, send me a message if you have any questions. Now, the second detail that you need to cover would be your top 5 accomplishments. Now, this is where we got cut off in the other video. So the top 5 accomplishments includes any of your accomplishments, any detail that you're proud of, because right, I recommend that you write down as many details about it as possible, because you will be using, so for every accomplishment that you have, there's a story behind it. And you won't have an accomplishment without a problem, without a struggle. And during interview situations, you will be asked to talk about problems, to talk about struggles, and how you overcame these problems and struggles. So, for example, if your accomplishment is, say, you got married, as one of the examples that I got from one of my trainees, you can talk about the challenges. So, for example, your potential in-laws didn't like you at first, and you can talk about what you did to make them like you. So, a lot of people, they have oh, hello there. A lot of people, they have what do you call that? They're always prepared to talk about their positive traits. So, for example, you go to a job, they ask you about strengths and weaknesses. So, someone talks about well, you should hire me because I am hardworking, I have good communication skills, I have whatever positive trait. And then what happens is the interviewer just notes that down, and then you think you're off the hook, you think you're okay. And then the interviewer comes back with a question that says, you mentioned that you're hardworking. Can you tell me about a story or a situation where you had to, like, do something that proves that you're hardworking? For example, can you tell me about a situation where you had to do overtime, but you had to do something else? Did you go to your personal appointment, or did you do the overtime? And that's where these top 5 accomplishments come in. So if you have these accomplishments listed down, and you have the details of the stories behind it, you'll be able to tell the stories in detail, and you'll be able to, and because you prepared these stories in advance, you don't have to think about it, you don't have to translate it, you can share it effortlessly. And that's the idea why I want you to have a notebook and write down the important details. Now, so yeah, top 5 accomplishments, anything you're proud of. It doesn't matter if it's personal, if it's professional. If you have professional accomplishments, you can write that down. It's really important that you write that down. But if you don't, if you're a student, yeah, anything that will like if you see it, you should be able to share, like maybe an award or an extracurricular activity that you've been praised for, anything. Okay. Now, third important detail that you need to have on your notebook would be your top five goals. So, what are your goals? It could be a professional goal, it could be a personal goal, it could be a financial goal, it could be a physical or a health goal, it could be a spiritual goal, a relationship goal. So, top five goals. What are your goals? And just write it down. And then if you have goals, it's written down. It's a lot easier to plan it and come up with a plan, come up with a strategy, because it's written down. It's on paper. You'll be able to solve problems before you actually experience the problems in real life. So it's always a good idea to do things on paper before you face them in the actual thing, right? Um, Number four would be your IQ score. Um, how do you get an IQ score? Just Google IQ test and just take whatever test that comes out, and just know the number. Know if your IQ is average, above average, below average, or maybe you're like genius level intelligence, or yeah, it's good to know. Are you smart or are you not so smart? Because tell me what, if you take an IQ test and you find out that you're smart and you're not confident, well, you should be confident because you found out that you're smart. Now, what do you do if your IQ test is low? Take another IQ test, see if you can get a higher score. And if it really is low, you need to figure out how do you make yourself better, all right? The other important detail is your personality type. So there are a lot of personality type tests, but I like the Myers Briggs. It's not very accurate, but you get a list of your positive traits and negative traits. And it's generally like it depends. It depends on you whether you agree with it or not. If reading your results make you feel positive, then yeah, go for it. Next, answer the question. Like on your notebook, answer the question. How do you deal with stress? And then just write down a list of things that you do when you encounter stress. List of the things you tell yourself. List of people that you ask advice from, and so on. Just answer that question. How do you deal with stress? And fill the entire page with your answers. Next, next is on another page on your notebook. Just write down, how do you deal with difficult people? So yeah, this question usually comes out in a call center interview, and just and I'm pretty sure everyone has encountered difficult people. So question is, how do you deal with that? So just like on your notebook, just take one page, write down, how do you deal with difficult people? And you don't have to like write an essay. You can, but maybe you could start with just writing a list. Like, what do you do? Like, simple answer is don't get angry. So that's one line. And then you write another line. What's another line? What do you do? Like, do you take deep breaths? So that's an example. And then you just keep filling out the page with how you deal with difficult people. Okay. And then On another page, let's take another page. At the top of the page, write down the question, um, what details do you want to know about the job? So just write down a list of questions that you want to know about the job. Now, um, the reason why you need to have that ready is usually at the end of your interview, you will have the opportunity to ask your interviewer questions. So it's not just them asking you questions. You should also ask them questions, because when you ask questions, you communicate that you're interested in the position. If you don't ask questions, it's like you're expressing to your interviewer that you're not interested. So you need to be able to ask questions. And if you don't have any questions in mind during the interview, then you basically blew up your chance to ask your questions. And then if you end the interview without any questions, you basically told the interviewer that you're not interested in the job. So you need to have questions ready for your interview. And one of the questions that I ask is, I start with more basic questions, and then as the interviewer answers my questions, I ask more and more difficult questions. So it's actually fun. You can ask your interviewer questions that are difficult for them to answer, that will make them think. And if you make them think, you'll be able to give out a good impression. I'll give you an example. So usually here's an embarrassing detail about my job applications. I don't usually do internet research about the company, because I use that to create a conversation between me and the interviewer. So for example, so at the end of the interview, the interviewer asks me questions. The interviewer tells me, "Do you have any questions for me?" So the first thing I ask is, it's my first time applying here. Can you tell me more about your job application process? So if the interviewer hasn't told me about those details, I ask about it. If they have asked me about it, I ask them a different question. But the first question I usually ask is, could you give me more details about the job application process? Now, the next question I ask is, did you notice anything about the way I handled the interview that sounds a bit off? Like, is there anything I can improve? Is there anything, or do you have any tips for me for the next stage of the interview process, or for the next stage of the job application process? So we go there, and depending on how they answer, so I ask more questions. My favorite question to ask, but I usually ask this in the middle, is what traits do you think would make an agent in this company really successful? So like, what are the common traits of top agents in this company? So you ask that, and you usually get really good answers from interviewers. You get a lot of tips, and then you can mix that up with like really nice questions like, how long have you been working in this company? So, and are there any specific benefits that are unique to this company, like any specific perks? Because like, different companies have different house rules. So for example, I used to work for a company called West Contact Services, and they have this software that lets you lets you request for leaves and they get approved automatically. You can like change your shift or request a change of shift on the website, and you can check your schedule. You can make all these schedule changes online, and you don't have to ask for permission manually. Supervisor doesn't necessarily need to approve it. So that's one of the perks, and perks can be as simple as like, oh, we're close to a lot of uh, really good restaurants, so you can you can eat well here. So that's one perk. But anyway, list on that page. Just list down all the questions that you want to ask the interviewer, and just make sure that you're polite when you ask questions, and you just fire away your questions when you get the opportunity. Now, okay, so number 9, minimum acceptable salary. Now you need to. Now this is actually something for you to decide. You need to know what's acceptable for you and what's not acceptable for you. Okay, so because it's really difficult. Like when you're talking to someone with no work experience, you ask them like, so how much do you want to make in a month, or how much do you want me to pay you? And then they say, kayo na po bahala, sir. And that's difficult. That's an awkward conversation. So you need to know that. You don't need to tell them that, but you need to know if the salary is too low for you. The other detail that you need to figure out is like what salary will make you happy. And just write it down. So that will be your range. Minimum acceptable salary, and then the salary that will make you happy. So you need to figure that out. Because if you don't have your minimum acceptable salary prepared, excuse me, then you might end up signing up for jobs that will pay you a salary that's less than what you need to stay working at that job. Like, for example, you live in Paranaque and you have to work in Quezon City, and the salary is maybe 1,000 pesos a day, and you end up spending like $600 on the ride going there. So you lose like the 600, so you only have 400 pesos left, and you still have to eat, you still have to pay for rent. You need to do the math. So the first thing that you need to figure out is like, if you go to an interview, how much did I spend going to the interview? So, and then you take that into consideration when you before you agree to a salary. So you need to know what's the minimum acceptable salary and what salary is going to make you happy. The other detail that you need to find out and have on your notebook is what is your level of English skills. Now, you can just do an English test. Just Google English test, general English test, and you take 1, 2, or 3 of these, and just based on your score, figure it out. Is your skill on an average level? Is your skill on a good enough level, or is your skill really poor? And that'll help you figure out if you need more training or more practice. And also search business English test, and just answer 1 or 2 of those, so you know where you are. Because if you don't know where you are, you're gonna have a difficult time figuring out how to improve yourself. So yeah, basically that's it. Um, a lot of the advice that I gave today involves writing things down on your notebook. So just make sure that you have these details. I'm gonna just do a quick recap. So the first detail you need to know about yourself would be your typing speed. Take a typing speed test and just write down the number. Right. Next detail, number 2, your top 5 accomplishments. Just write it down and try to keep it professional. If you have anything that applies to work, if you're applying for a call center, look for something that applies to call center work, and just have that story ready for when you get to your interview. Next would be your top 5 goals. You need to figure that out, and then write down your IQ score. So that will help a lot. Number 5 would be your personality type. Number 6 is how you deal with stress. So you can take 1 or 2 pages and just write down a list of how to deal with stress. If you don't, if you have no idea how to deal with stress, just Google how do you deal with stress and then just write down which one applies to you. So next would be how to deal with difficult people. If you have no idea how to deal with difficult people, you can Google it. I also have tips on the website, callcentertrainingtips.com. It has over 200 lessons on how to get hired in the call center, how to improve, how to become a top agent, and basically how to achieve anything you want to achieve with your call center salary. And yeah, so number 8 would be questions that you want to know about the job. So questions to ask your interviewer. So I also have that list on the website, so you can check it out. Number 9 and 10 would be your minimum acceptable salary and the salary that will make you happy. I really encourage you to do the math here and just don't just go blindly accepting the first job that comes your way. You need to know what number works for you. And then number 11 would be English skills, both general and business English. Go on Google, take an English test, take 1, 2, or 3, and understand your score. And from there, you can figure out what you need to do better. Now, we're almost at the end, and I'm just going to share some tips, things that you can do with your notebook. So whenever I apply for a job, I always write down a list of important details when I go to a company. So the first detail I compete for example, I'm going to a company called Convergys. So I go to Convergys, I write down how long is the travel time from my house to that office. Number 2, how much did it cost for me to go there? And then, more importantly, if I get to an interview, I write down how much the salary is, so you can do the math. So, and then whenever I go to an interview, one important detail is when you have conversations with other applicants, ask them, number 1, what call centers have they been to, and then you can just write the names down. And number 2, where do they plan to go, and then write down the name of the call center that they plan to go next. So you have a growing list of companies that you'll be going to should you need another call center company to apply to. And alternatively, if the person is nice or friendly, you can just get their number and go together. But it's really important not to trust. Don't trust anyone you just meet in a job application, because there are a lot of stories and a lot of personal experience where people get robbed by other job applicants or swindled into, like, they borrow money, or they ask borrow the phone. They just need to text and then they run away, take the phone, something like that. So you need to avoid that. So yeah, that's how you prepare. Um, that's how you can prepare to be confident in any interview. Uh, there, like, a lot of these details will help you become more confident when you face your interviewer, but it's always important to remember that it'll take you like 16 interviews to get hired in your dream job. That's how long it usually takes me to find a company that will pay the salary that I'm looking for. And if you're in sales, usually takes 16 meetings with meetings with 16 different clients until you find someone who pays for what you're selling, how much ever it is. So yeah, that's really important. Anyway, if you have any questions, feel free to just visit the Facebook page, visit the Facebook groups, go to the website. You can send me a message if you haven't already. I'm giving out free reviewers. All you need to do is to just send a message with your email address, and we'll send you a link to a reviewer. And I'm actually spending some time growing the reviewer, just adding more lessons to it, to the free stuff. I also sell some one-on-one, like, private coaching, but usually a lot of people, they get by with the free stuff, so you can just focus on the free stuff. If you want to buy something later, that'd be great as well. What else? Yeah, and so I'm actually starting here with this new location. They have faster Wi-Fi, and I hope to do more of these live trainings, live discussions. And I'm trying to figure out what time you guys are online. So if you're watching this, just leave a comment with what time you want me to go online, because I'll be here from 9 a.m. to like 9 p.m. or something, just hanging out. Yeah, and anyway, thanks for watching, and you guys have a good morning, afternoon, or evening, like whatever time you're watching this. Okay, bye-bye.